Are we on 56, 55?
56, and we're also recording. You said one. This is what goes on behind the scenes, folks, all the time.
Here we have our blooper reel now. Okay, so what episode is this, Mushtaq?
This is 56.
Yeah, okay.
Reel of Truth.
Wherever it is. This is Huddle and Place the Nine-Sided Circle, and it is May.
It is
26th?
May. You got it right once.
Oh my God.
March.
I'm on the ball, guys. Except I'm not, but I am. I am your host, Noor Kyle, in LA currently, along with
your other host, Mushtaq Ali, who is either in the Bay Area or in a cenote in southern Mexico.
Nice. Cool. Got some plant life there.
Got some plant life, got some water, got, 10 degrees lower ambient temperature.
I feel like bats would live there, maybe hang out.
In some of them, not that many. A lot of cenotes are not that big on, on the groundwork, even though they have tunnels that can go on for miles. Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder what does live in there.
Blind fish.
Ooh, yeah.
Weird spiders.
Weird spiders. Fun. So.
Gigantic centipedes 3 feet long that eat humans when you sleep at night.
Really?
No.
I was gonna say sounds fun. All right. So today, any updates? Anything you want to offer? I guess for me, like we found out in LA today, thanks to Mira Garcetti, who did a briefing today, we're gonna open a lot of retail places in LA County tomorrow. And that's both exciting and scary at the same time. Because it means, okay, now we have better access, more mobility in order to get around and get the things that we need without having to rely on things like Amazon and such. But it also means there is just that much more opportunity for the spread of coronavirus, and we have to grapple with that. And I guess my thought right now is that huddling in place can only last for so long for various reasons, like economic reasons, practical reasons, mental health reasons, financial reasons. However, we do need to balance that with the fact that we must remain vigilant. That has not changed. We need to continue that. And as Mushtaq and I were just discussing beforehand, this seems as if it could be perhaps a lull moment rather than a conclusion in this pandemic. At least where we are. Obviously, situations are different on the ground in other places around the world, in the US, from county to county, even around here. And we'll see how that unfolds. What are your thoughts, Mushtaq?
Yeah, it's, huddling in place is, if nothing else, psychologically not recommended.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the government decided to actually support its citizens and come up with a universal basic income for everybody, we could huddle in place for a lot longer.
Yeah, I mean, that is a huge part of the problem, in that we don't have the resources to make this sustainable. We don't, economically speaking, people are having trouble paying their rents, and they don't necessarily
have the resources because our government has decided to use the huge amount of tax money they take from us every year on things they think are more important than us.
Right. And I do agree with you there. Yeah. There has not been a lot of solidarity in terms of supporting everyday people and mom and pop businesses. That's been really tough to watch fall apart, frankly, over the course of the last 2 months. And that's really unfortunate. It did not have to go that way, but unfortunately it has.
Yep. So it is what it is. This is what we're stuck with.
Yeah.
Moment.
So, in the spirit of, clear-eyed thinking, yeah, I mean, that's essentially what we wanted to touch on today, was holding on to clear-eyed thinking about this moment in time and getting around the politics of this pandemic. So what's been on your mind in that regard, Mushtaq?
Well, I tried an interesting experiment today. A good friend of mine, who happens to be a right-leaning libertarian kind of fellow, made a post making fun of all of the different positions everybody are taking vis-a-vis wearing masks.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought for a second, I said, wait a minute. Nobody's asking the right question. So my friend is a scientist, right?
Yep.
And he's a really good scientist. So I said to him, of all of these things that you've mentioned, from your point of view as a scientist, what is the most reasonable? And it took him about 2 minutes to come up with the exact answers that the best medical minds in the world are giving us about wearing masks. And it was very nuanced, and it matched exactly the medical people who I trust, who I know are going to give me non-political information. It matched their representation or their recommendations perfectly. And even though he's like making fun of all of this stuff, he knows what the truth is. And if you ask him the right question, he'll tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But that's because he actually has the ability to analyze the facts.
Yeah.
Figure out what are facts and what is hype and what is political bullshit.
Right, and that's a real challenge right now. I mean, I find just looking at headlines from newspapers that I trust, who tend to align with my views, I'm noticing that there are certain ways in which things are being framed in sensationalist or provocative ways.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes downright dishonest ways. The
Right.
classic example of that in the last few weeks is the shit the media pulled on Jared Kushner.
Say more about that.
Yeah.
Refresh our memories.
I absolutely loathe the fellow. Let me start out by saying that I think he's scum of the earth and should probably spend the rest of his life in prison. That being said, he was asked a question about delaying the election. And he gave a perfectly reasonable answer, which was, I don't know, that's not part of my job.
Yeah, I mean, it was I remember that now. And his
remember that.
He was, the way his response was taken out of context was pretty
It was
egregious.
completely re-embroidered in places. They claimed he said things that he never said, and we had them on video to see. And it's only fair to call them out, even if these media groups say things that we agree with. If they lie, we need to call them liars.
I 100% agree.
And they lied about that. Of course, that's the difference between progressives and left-leaning libertarians and everybody else, is we're willing to call our own out, and they aren't.
Yeah.
That's what I say. Ha ha. Make fun of you.
So who do you think is willing to call others out?
I think that there are people who are willing to call others out on all sides, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. an
Oh,
excellent.
I just felt I had to throw in the party line for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's very attached to their party lines right now, I think we discussed it over the past couple days in our little update parts that
Yeah.
in the
So it's
US,
like me. I think my party has maybe 6 people left in it.
yeah.
Yeah, there are no left-leaning libertarians anymore.
Hmm.
We have been wiped from the face of the earth.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I read an article today that was about it's like identity to the in-group is what people are sticking to more than their actual, like we say we join a party because we align with the values that it espouses and all that stuff. At this point, things are so reified that it's really just about like the cohesiveness of the identity rather than the actual values themselves. Because people get stuck in these ways of defining themselves. And it doesn't matter what Trump does or what Biden does or whoever, you stick to that identity. You hold tight to it because it's kind of almost like the only thing you have left at this point. I think that's how people perceive it sometimes.
Yep. So the alternative to that is hunting for facts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are very few facts in the world.
Yeah.
Most of the facts that you find are found in mathematics. Mathematics can give you a proof. Scientific method can only give you a theory. Now, a theory is damn near a proof. People don't understand that unless they've actually worked in scientific method. When you get to the point of having a theory, it is as sure as human beings can be about anything. It's like the theory of evolution. The theory of evolution is not, oh, that's just the theory. It is all of the scientific data arranged in such a way that it makes sense to us now because of facts.
Yeah.
Because of evidence. The thing about scientific method is you can never say anything is true. You can only say that it's false.
Right.
Yeah, so somebody says, oh, there is a special hidden substance in the atmosphere of the world that conducts energy and it's called phlogiston. And we all go, oh, that sounds good. Let's check for that. And we find out, Michelson-Morley experiment, there is no phlogiston. There is no ether. We do not need a fluid medium in the atmosphere to conduct electricity or any other form of energy.
Mm-hmm.
So we have disproved that theory. That theory was falsified.
Yep.
So we can do things like that with everything that's going on if we think about it.
Yeah. And that means being open to whatever comes out of that exploration. I mean, you go into it earnestly with full intent to discover things that maybe might surprise you.
Maybe you don't even like. Like it forced me to say something nice about Jared Kushner.
But that's exactly right, though.
Yeah.
And that's challenging because it feels scary and threatening and all that stuff. But
it's the truth.
Yeah, and if you are someone who values the truth, it means coming up against challenges like that. And even if you don't love it, you embrace it regardless. Yeah. So, I mean, these are the things we're forced to reckon with.
Yeah, and that means you need to learn to ask the right questions, which is something that nobody seems to do anymore. It pisses me off.
So what does that, how does one do that?
Okay, so I took a look at the news today, something that I often regret. But the new press secretary, I forget her name, blonde woman in her late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah, she's young, yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember her name, but she was getting quizzed about this incredibly outrageous thing that Trump said on Twitter about accusing Joe Scarborough of murdering one of his aides, something that there is no evidence for. And, you know, rightly, the press asked her, what about this? To which she deflected by using a straw man. What about this over here? Joe Scarborough and Don Imus said this years ago about this thing. And isn't that terrible? That's what you need to be talking about, not the Trump thing.
Yeah.
And not one of these idiots who claim to be journalists had the sense to ask her the right question to that response, which would have been, oh, are you saying that because Joe Scarborough did this, that makes it all right for Trump to bring this up? Nobody asked her that. And I'm sitting there listening to it. And it's not that she tried to deflect the question, because that's what they do. But
Yeah,
the fact that
job.
Journalists are not smart enough and not educated enough to listen logically to the answers and know the responses that will trip them up when they give you bullshit answers like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the fact of the matter is, no matter what Joe Scarborough said, no matter what Don Imus said, that does not excuse Trump's behavior.
I agree. Yeah. We got to sharpen up.
We do. And we're not gonna.
No.
No, I've been watching, people who are friends of mine on Facebook, and I have friends across the political and religious spectrum. You know, I don't like people because they're like me. I oftentimes like people because they're not like me.
Yeah, you have a track record of that. Yes.
But I'm watching some of them just parroting the party line without even knowing how to question what they're saying. You know, people are saying, oh, it's only 1%. And they don't have the math to figure out 1% of the number that is 1% of the population of the United States, which is pretty staggering.
It is, yes.
And then if you think 2%, which is what it's going to be in another 3 to 4 months, that's going to be even more staggering. But if we only say, oh, that's only 1%, there's the other 99% and they're all fine. And first of all, we don't know the statistics yet.
Right.
It took 2 years for the Spanish flu to rack up its death toll. We have, in 5 months, say, had 2/3 greater numbers of Americans die from COVID-19 than died from the flu all year last year. So about 35,000 people in a 12-month period died from the flu last year.
Yeah.
And we have just about 100,000 people dying from COVID-19 in 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to talk math and you want to talk statistics, you got to take this into consideration. And nobody is. They just find the number that makes them feel good and they throw it out there. And none of them can offer the proofs. And the thing about math is you can have proofs. Math is one of the few things you can say, oh, this is true. Look, here's the proof. And you can have the proofs, and they don't. And it takes too much work, and most people just don't have the math to do it. I'm sorry. I ask a lot of people these days, and they can barely add and subtract. And most of them have to take off their shoes. Sorry, I'm being mean, but it's
just a tiny bit.
This is an irritant for me.
Oh yeah, I mean, I know that you get passionate about this because you believe so strongly, and rightly so, in the value of you know, critiquing being critical about the things that we ingest in terms of the media and discussions we're having, whether we can have them from a place of being safe with the truth, like being okay with bringing the truth into the conversation, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Seeking that, valuing that.
Yeah, you have to have the truth no matter how uncomfortable it is.
And
or
of
you're
course,
living a lie.
Yeah, and
living a lie out of ignorance is little better than living a lie out of knowledge.
mhm. And we may not know, I mean, like, we're not talking about the big T truth. Like, that is not, we
Yeah,
have no.
we'll do that on Sunday.
Yeah, but we can scrutinize the data that's available to us. And that is going to be imperfect data, granted, because there's still so much that is still unfolding about this pandemic and its consequences. We will be pulling at that thread probably for years to come. But that doesn't mean that we stop checking ourselves and observing what's right in front of us and taking note, taking it seriously, so that we can make choices that are going to be appropriate to what's happening around us. I feel like a lot of people are not so interested in having a clear eye about the realities that are in front of them, and that's problematic.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because here you have these people who are like, oh, we don't want to wear masks. We're not masculine if we wear masks, and,
Mhm.
and having the trucker balls on your mask, I think it is in fact the key to that. Have you seen that?
No.
Yeah, you know what trucker balls are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
so
go
you can
on
have a
the
small one and you can hang it right under your mask and show everybody that you're still a big stud.
sigh.
Yeah, but the thing is, here are these guys and they're freedom, we don't want to wear our masks, and eventually people are going to go, fine, don't wear your mask,
Mhm.
and a whole shitload of people are going to die, but they're as they're dying they're going to be going, we won.
The consequences are going to play themselves out, and
Yeah,
that sucks.
I don't like that because the consequences are not good for us as a country.
I know.
Even if it's only people who I don't like dying, that's still the wrong people to die. The right people to die is politicians. They should all catch the disease, but that's not going to happen.
Alas, no. So, yeah, I mean, to summarize, just, we need to get comfortable with critical thinking again.
Yes, we do. And we need to get reacquainted with truth, even if we don't like it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a good way to sum this all up. Yep.
That's a good title for this, by the way. If you know somebody who's going to be writing a title for this later.
Oh, I might know someone. Yeah. So there you go.
All right. So I'm done.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us as always. And we will be right back here tomorrow. Take care. Stay healthy. Look out for one another. And we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, folks.